Good morning, everyone. I have 8:03. We're on a tight agenda. We got some important business to do this morning, and I thank everyone for being here. I'm going to ask Representative Mathis to lead us in a word of prayer this morning.
Let us pray, please. Father, thank you for letting us all get here safe this morning. We just ask you to watch over our families back home. Father, we just ask that we would do your will in this meeting, that we will do the things that are right for the state of Georgia in agriculture and consumer affairs. For it's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, and I appreciate the committee being here this morning at 8 o'clock on committee day. I know you've got a lot of other things you'd rather be doing, but we've got some very important business to take care of in the next few weeks. And But this morning, first on the agenda, I've asked the Attorney General's Office of Consumer Protection Division to come speak. Our committee has been getting lots of consumer bills, and many of you have asked about consumer issues and what the state can do and not do. And so I've asked them to come do a presentation this morning for us, just their responsibilities with that. So if you would take the mic here, the podium mic, and introduce yourselves, and it's all. Oh, y'all do it at the table. That's better. That's better. So thank you both for being here this morning. And I know at least one of you rearranged some schedules at the last minute to be here. So thank you.
No, thank you, Chairman. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk about the Consumer Protection Division at the Attorney General's office. And let me get myself situated here. My name is Sean Conroy. I'm the Communications and Outreach Coordinator for the Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division. And I've started with the office back in 1997 when it was the Governor's Office of Consumer Affairs. In 2015, on paper, the General Assembly and Governor moved the Governor's Office of Consumer Affairs over to the Attorney General's office, where a vast majority of consumer protection agencies across the country are housed. And I'll let Jordan Watson introduce himself.
Yeah, good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Jordan Watson. I'm the Director of Policy and External Affairs for the Attorney General's office. Good to be with you.
And so I want to give an overview of what the office does, the services that we offer, and the help that we can provide to your constituents. The office created in 1975. The main law that we enforce is called the Georgia Fair Business Practices Act. And that deals with consumer transactions between a business and a consumer, not involving a government entity, we receive about 26 to 30,000 complaints a year. So we process those. Over the years, the General Assembly has introduced legislation almost every year, adding responsibilities, specific items that are violations of the Fair Business Practices Act. And we have had other responsibilities added onto the division. Georgia's lemon law. We enforce Georgia's new car lemon law that deals with new vehicles. It's basically a 2-year, 20,000 mile warranty that's provided to the car. You all expanded that in 2009. It used to be 1 year and 12,000 miles, but the legislature decided to expand that. It's a great consumer protection function that we administer. And any given year in repurchases and replacements of vehicles, it adds up to sometimes $25, $30 million a year. So it's an impactful law, and we think that's good for the consumer. We have a call center in the office that operates Monday through Friday, that we take calls from consumers. Our team processes the complaints that come in. We then decide if we need to open up a case. And how do we decide that? Is it in the public interest? Are a vast number of consumers being impacted? Is it a vulnerable population? The Fair Business Practices Act has language in it that talks about enhanced penalties for older adults and disabled adults. Is this adversely impacting our veterans? So we look at issues like that. Are we going to be able to make a difference? Is this a matter that we can resolve through mediation, or are we going to have to take enforcement action? Our enforcement action comes through the form of we can issue fines, $2,000 per violation. That can go up because there are, again, enhanced penalties for the older adults and disabled adults. We can file suit against a company. That brings additional penalties. Some examples of that: last year we realized several $1 million in a stem cell case. There was a stem cell organization that was offering products that were not scientifically proven to increase health. So people thought that they're going to get their knee fixed, and instead of getting surgery, for example. So they they got the shot, and it turned out it didn't help them. So we have a settlement in which right around 500 individuals are going to get refunds. There's been a court order. That's one example of the work we do. I'd also talk about consumer education. We think that an educated consumer, if we can stop people from getting scammed in the first place, that's a big plus. And we do that. Our website, consumer.ga.gov, has a wealth of information on it, including a page that I'd point you to if you've ever have a constituent contact you saying, I just lost money in a scam. What do I do? Well, we have put together a list of, if you've lost money in a wire transfer, who to contact, if it was a gift card, if it was one of the apps that you send money on, and it gives information about how to try to contact those organizations and claw back that money if possible. In addition, we have another website, Ask Consumer Ed. We take real questions from consumers, and our lawyers answer them. We then publish the questions and answers online and push that out. So please feel free to use that in any newsletters that you have. And I should also mention that we have a team of about 50 people. We have attorneys, investigators, and we're available if you have any questions that come up. And again, our website, consumer.ga.gov, and then the Ask Consumer Ed website. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the committee? I know there's a lot of scams going on out there. We're inundated with it in many places. A lot of consumer issues out there. So, thank you for what y'all do. I think I see one question. Representative Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the presentation this morning, and thank you for what you do to protect the people of Georgia. I wanted you, if you could, just talk a little bit more about the call center process, just in case people are watching online. What would they experience if they dialed the number? What's to be expected? Sure. Can they call anonymously? You know, just that information.
Sure. We rely on the public to inform us of consumer complaints. That's what drives our case process. When we hear from Georgians that are having an issue with a business that potentially is acting unfairly or deceptively in the marketplace, the call center team will take that information. They'll often ask for the citizen to send more information to us. You know, is there a contract you signed? Is there an advertisement that you relied on to become involved in the transaction? We want to see that information. And a majority of our complaints now are coming in online at consumer.ga.gov. We have a web form that asks questions and helps guide the consumer to give us the information that we need to help make a determination. Is is this a complaint that's just an isolated incident, or is it potentially impacting hundreds or thousands of Georgians? And is this an area that we need to provide more consumer education on? We do have 2 offerings, consumer guides that we've produced that have proven to be, especially our Georgia Consumer Protection Guide for older adults that's available online for download. We put this together in 2018. Attorney General Carr thought it was important that we do more consumer education for older adults and caregivers. And so we have focus groups with organizations like the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the AARP, about a dozen groups, and ask them, what do you want to see in a guide? What's important for older adults to know? And then we have focus groups with older adults themselves. So inside the guide, there's information about consumer scams, but there's also information in here about more criminal matters, such as elder abuse, and where to get help on that. So information that might not normally be called a consumer issue, but we heard from experts and older adults that they needed to see this in a guide. We also have a guide called Cybersecurity in Georgia that's focused on small businesses, nonprofits, and places of worship that may not have an IT person on staff to help them make sure that they have the latest up-to-date software to protect themselves from a security breach. So this is a step-by-step guide about how to secure that information. And then we also put out, I'll mention too, I don't know if I mentioned, we put out consumer alerts when we see an issue that popped up. I'm sure that you may have received this yourself and seen in the news. Recently there have been text scams with Peach Pass. And we were speaking to a group of students yesterday from Georgia State University, about 30 of them, and I said, how many of you have received the Peach Pass scan? And literally like 90% of them raised their hands.
We received them too.
We received them too. And we also put that out on social media. We put it on the Attorney General's thought that was an important issue, so we put an alert out on the Facebook and the Twitter and try to get the word out there is like, don't click on these links. There are scam artists. These text messages originate typically in other countries, and there are. I read from some of the experts in the industry, there are about 10,000 domain names that have been registered recently. The initial web page is the legitimate toll website, but then they add on domain characters that would take you to a fraudulent website, and there they would ask you for your money and or financial information. So they're trying to get the word out before people lose money is important.
Well, thank you for this presentation. I see no more questions. I really appreciate you being here. Appreciate Attorney General Chris Carr for taking my call a couple of days ago and arranging for y'all to be here. Appreciate what you do and the whole department over there. So,
Okay.
Thank you. Call us
Thank
anytime.
you.
thank y'all very much. Next, I'd like to call SB 201, which is another consumer bill. I think Senator Walker, it flows right in after that presentation. I think you've got some increased consumer protection for homeowners, wherever you'd like to sit. And so thank you, Senator. Majority Caucus Secretary this morning. Got his ag tie on. Tractor. So,
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, committee. I'm really delighted to be with the House Ag and Consumer Affairs Committee this morning. I feel at home, see a lot of friends on the committee, and appreciate you letting me present Senate Bill 201. Obviously, we're still reeling and recovering, trying to recover from Hurricane Helene, and I think when we have natural disasters, we see the best in people, and we certainly saw that from Georgians, Neighbors Helping Neighbors, our first responders, and yesterday we honored our linemen that were frontline heroes in that recovery effort. But we also sadly see the worst in people after natural disasters. And following what the Attorney General's office folks talked about, we're seeing more and more and more scams and unscrupulous business practices, and seems like these scammers, these fraudsters, really especially try to prey on senior citizens, and I'm about one myself now, so I get it. So after a natural disaster, people are at the most vulnerable point oftentimes, and their home has been damaged, and they are don't have a roof over their head sometimes, and are at a loss of what to do. They look around and they see their neighbors with the same type damage, and they're under a lot of duress, and they're in a panic to try to get the repairs made to their home, and they're afraid if they don't act quickly, they're going to get at the end of the line or get left out. So they're in a very, very vulnerable situation, which makes them easy prey for storm chaser contractors to swoop in and take advantage of them in that moment and get them to sign contracts that they otherwise wouldn't have signed, or would have had more time to diligently study what they're signing. And they also oftentimes try to get them to sign their insurance benefits so that they've got them locked in and kind of got them over a barrel. I've gotten involved with an organization called the National Council of Insurance Legislators. And I'm an insurance agent, by the way, myself, but it's a really, really good, hard-working organization with a lot of good policy resources. And we heard at I believe it was our summer meeting last year, it might have been the fall meeting, but we heard from the testimony from the national, let me look it up and be sure I say their name properly. The National Insurance Crime Bureau did a presentation on just this type of thing after following a natural disaster. So that prompted me, along with some concerns I heard from fellow legislators that were affected by Hurricane Helene. I thought we needed to strengthen our Georgia Fair Business Practices Act for homeowners after a natural disaster, and that's what we're attempting to do in Senate Bill 201, try to rein in these unfair and deceptive practices. What I'm trying to do with this bill is to give the ability for a homeowner to cancel their contract with a contractor if the contractor does not perform like they promised to do. So if you look at lines 36 through 41, that's basically the items or the things that would allow a consumer to get out of the contract. So failing to substantially commence work, so they come in, they get them to sign a contract, maybe they get an assignment of insurance benefits, and then they don't show back up to do the work. Failing to complete all or portion of the agreed upon services in a proper manner, it's going to prohibit them from taking the assignment of benefits from a homeowner's. And then if you look at, so 41 speaks to Section B, which is if the consumer gets notice, like once the claim adjuster comes out, and that can take, after a big disaster, that can take a while for the claims adjuster to even get there because they've got so much to try to handle. But once the consumer gets a notice from the insurance company that either all or a portion of the claim is not covered, the consumer would then have a out on the contract, so they would have 5 days to notify the contractor that the insurance claim was denied, or a portion of the insurance claim was denied. and I want to cancel the contract. Lines 64 through 68 require a notice be included in the contract about that provision. And this, I guess maybe kind of going out of order, but basically this would be from 12 months of the date of the natural disaster, and it has to be in a county that was declared a state of emergency by the governor. So this is not an unlimited, like in 8 years down the road, you can't hire a painter and use this provision to get out of that contract with the painter. It has to be within 12 months of the natural disaster. I think it gives some good protections against this type of really, I think, pretty evil activity. And oftentimes we're seeing contractors coming in from surrounding states or not even Georgia contractors. It does allow for the emergency mitigation is kind of carved out. So if you do have a damaged roof and you hire somebody to come in and tarp the roof or patch it so that you don't have further damage from rain, et cetera, that is not, you are going to have to pay for that because they came and did that emergency work for you. I do have, unfortunately, Mr. Chairman, everything going so fast this year. I do think I need to clean up the definition, a definition of natural disaster on line 96. I tried to define it earlier in the bill, but the section 3 refers to another code section, and I have to redefine it, I think, on line 96 to make it clear that it's a state of emergency proclaimed by the governor, because natural disaster is too broad in that on line 96. And then the part about insurance companies not assigning the benefits after a natural disaster, state of emergency. The insurance carriers tell me they need time to amend their form to include that language in their form, and they'd like the effective date of that part to be January 1, 2026. I think that's fair. So I need to change that date. And then the other thing is I was kind of just looking at it today, and I'd be happy to see what you guys think, and ladies. So line 36, it says failing to substantially commence work on the contracted services with 1 year of the execution of such contract. Those of you that live in the areas that were impacted by Hurricane Helene, I'd love some input. Is 1 year, that seems like a long time to me, like maybe it should be 6 months. But I know that with Helene in particular, it is taking a really long time to get, there's just so much work to be done. So I don't want it to be unreasonable for the contractor, but I'd love some feedback from you all that live in that area to, tell me if you think 12 months is too long. If I was waiting, 12 months would seem like a mighty long time. But
Okay, thank you, Senator, and we do have some questions for you, and we'll certainly very able to fix some good Senate bills that come over here. We're very capable of doing that, and thank you for your confidence in the House to get it right. And but I'm gonna.
I think, to me, this is really important, and I do want to get it right and balanced.
And I
fair.
appreciate that. I know you do. And so, Chairman Hagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for bringing this bill. This is so timely and so important. And you used the term storm chaser contractors. I had not heard that term before, but it so accurately describes what happened within 2 or 3 days of the hurricane hitting our community. There were signs on every street corner advertising work. It's almost as if they were anticipating the opportunity to come in and take advantage of the situation, and really was troublesome and worrisome for those of us who live in those areas. So I think the need for this protection is high. As far as what you said on line 36 with the time frame, I don't know if 6 months would be enough time. Maybe 12 months is too long, but we just had, it took us over 4 months to have our roof replaced. So it's just, there's so much damage and so few legitimate roofers that I'm concerned that 6 months might not be enough time. There's still a lot of blue tarps in our community, but I would wonder what other members of the committee thought there. But I do think what you got here is something that is very friendly to the people that need it. They are, most of the people I represent are not proficient in contracts, and this gives them a good opportunity to correct a decision that they've made under duress in an emergency, so that they could make sure that they know what they're entering into. And I think the opt-outs that you've provided here are excellent. But I just want to thank you for bringing the bill and recognizing what a huge need we have here.
Thank you.
Okay, we also have a question from Chairman Jaspers.
Over here, Chairman. Yes, sir. Thank you. This is a bill that'll cover a lot of things, and it absolutely needs to, like Chairman Hagan said. But, Chairman, the definition you have on 87, 88, 89, there are so many natural disasters that occur in one county or two counties that are not declared states of emergency by the governor. There'll be a tornado that's going to hop around as they do, floods in different areas. Is there any way, I know you're going to go back and try to fix some of this stuff, that you can broaden it to not just state of emergency by the governor, that a county commissioner could do that so they could protect their community also? I mean, because the same thing happens in a tornado. It'll hit two counties, but not big enough for the governor to declare a state of emergency. And they have the absolutely same problem trying to get roofs and all that done.
Mr. Chairman, I'll speak to two different provisions. So there is the 5 days, like if your claim is denied or only partially covered, the 5 days I don't believe has to be in that situation. I don't think the state of emergency. I'll have to double check, but I think they would have that protection as it is. I don't think it has to be, but maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, I'll look into that.
Sure.
The other thing is I'm trying to balance, so we don't want to make it so, I'm trying to balance the interests of the contractors who we desperately need to do the work and not put them at in a bad spot that they're reluctant to take on the legitimate contractors that maybe normally build houses, that are willing to come in and help out and do the work. I don't want to put them in such a disadvantage where they don't want to do it. So I'm trying to balance that, and that's where I thought the declared state of emergency would limit it to real major things where you have widespread damage.
Sure. I just think if we could find a way to include, what happens in North Georgia, Middle Georgia especially, tornadoes that take out one county, and they have the storm chasers come in just like they do for even a giant event like Helene.
Mr. Chairman, like I said, I'm an insurance agent. If a tree is blown down on it, falls on your roof because of high wind, on a one-off kind of deal, just at your place, that to me, I still would consider that a natural disaster. But I don't know that puts me in the same position as somebody that's in a county that was declared a state of emergency where the whole neighborhood's destroyed.
Sure.
I can take a little more time to be more discerning who I hire and how I want to do it. And so I don't want to make it so broad that it comes into play on every single wind claim that you're going to have.
Well, I agree. I agree. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, we got several more questions, and the committee, if you can keep your questions very precise, we got another bill we've got to hear that's very important as well. So, Representative Osteen.
I want to thank you so much for this bill, too. I lived through that storm. We had 140-mile-an-hour winds in Coffee County and an estimate of 22 to 25 tornadoes. And trees fell on people's homes like dominoes. There are story after story after story of people running for their lives, grabbing their children, and their homes are destroyed. And the predatory nature of these people that have come in and taken advantage, not only with just the roofs and repairs, but the getting the trees out of people's yards. I mean, I had some senior adults that told me that they were paying $5,000 a tree to get the trees out of their yards, and they emptied their life savings to try to get the trees out of their yard. This bill is so timely, and it's a great start. I don't know that I could change anything because, like in my community, just like Representative Hagan was talking, the destruction was catastrophic. It is worse than anything that anybody that we've talked to has ever seen. So it's a great start. I'd love to also talk to you about these people that come in and take these trees out of the yards too. That would be a great thing. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. So in this same code section, the Georgia Fair Business Practices Act, we do have some anti-gouging statute that's pretty strong so the gouging part on the tree removal, we do have laws on the books now, so you may want to look into that.
Okay, this is going to be we got several more questions, but the senator's going to bring this bill back with some changes. If you've got some suggestions for him, see him in the meantime in the next few days. We're going to hopefully get the wording right and any other suggestions. You're available, I'm sure. And let's engage with him unless there's somebody that's got something that's very important. Are you good, Representative Taylor? Okay. All right. You've got one quick question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm back on line 36, and I guess I'm asking for a little bit more flexibility because every repair may not take a year or may not take 6 months. How do you protect the consumer in that situation? Let's say, for instance, my damage was limited to maybe the repairs could be done within a month or two, but you're giving them a whole year to complete, but the bill covers them for the whole year. So can there be some flexibility in there for different types of repairs, if you will? I may not be saying that correctly, but I just think I'm like Representative Hagan, the year may be too long and the 6 months may not be long enough, but also 6 months may not be necessary. It could be something that could be done in 2 months.
What I'm trying to get at is more catastrophic situations where the homeowner is in extreme duress and signs a contract because they're under extreme duress and they're more susceptible to the predatory type deal. If it's a minor repair, they shouldn't be they can take their time sort of and be a little bit more thoughtful in whatever contract they sign. So that's kind of my thinking there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, very much.
Okay.
Sorry I took so
Chair
long.
Lady Camp.
Thank you. This will be quick, and if we need to discuss this further offline, we certainly can. Thank you for bringing this, Senator. All right, so going back to line 36, failing to substantially commence work on the contracted services within 1 year of the execution of contract. Again, I'm a little bit concerned with that amount of time because there's so much fluctuation in lumber prices and roofing materials and all that. How will we know that the quote that someone got 1 year earlier would still be valid then? There'd probably have to be some adjustments made over that time. That it just concerns me, the duration of time. I think you had mentioned at one point, or maybe it was Chairman Hagan that mentioned 6 months or maybe 8 months. I don't know if that would make a huge difference or not, but I just know I did a renovation on a project, and it took a year and a half just because it did. It was not because of a disaster. We lost a lot of our contractors because there were a lot of storm damage, in Griffin, Georgia, following a tornado. And I know our materials cost vastly different in a year's time. So that was just my only concern, that we might want to put a provision in there regarding materials.
So if insurance is involved, and most of the time it would be, there is a provision for that with the insurance company. You can get a supplement if the costs change because of material costs being different. So that's already kind of built into the way the system works.
Do you think we should codify that? Because there are a lot of self-pays for various reasons. Not everyone uses insurance, unfortunately, especially on accessory properties.
I think it'd be kind of hard to do, to be honest with you.
Okay, we've got one, Chairman Smith, have you got a quick question?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I think this may clarify. Good to see my good friend from South Georgia again. Just so members of the committee knows that in general contract law for claims on written contracts, there's a 6-year statute of limitations, and for oral contracts, there's a 4-year statute of limitations to bring you contract claim. I think this specialized circumstance, 1 year, captures and gives enough time, especially in these instances, because this is a much more immediate issue that's addressed by contractors, kind of like a rapid response, if you will. And so I would just submit and defer to you, Senator, as to what you would think about that. But I would say that the 1 year, I think, would cover what you're trying to accomplish.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Senator Walker, for bringing this. You see how engaged our committee is, and I think it's a great bill, too, and with a little different language, and you've heard comments, so I look forward to bringing this back next week. If anybody's got some suggestions, please engage with the Senator in the meantime. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, next on our agenda, and Senator Watson, please come to the table. Senate Bill 144. Members of the committee, it's in your pack, SB 144CFA. Is that correct, Senator?
Yes, sir, it is.
Thank you, my good friend, fellow farmer from Moultrie. Members of this committee, you might remember seeing this bill prior. This committee passed it unanimously out. Chairman Meeks here presented a few weeks ago, and we decided to bring the Senate bill over. Y'all passed it out of the Senate, and now it's to our committee here. So I'll let you have the floor.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and thank you for those opening comments, and appreciate all of Chairman Meeks' work on this bill in the House and this committee as well. So this language should look very familiar. This is a labeling bill, and when it comes to plant protection products and crop protection tools, the label is the law. And the United States Environmental Protection Agency approves the label, and they do not allow anyone to put anything on the label that they do not approve. And just to let you know how intense that is it usually takes about 13 years, and there's over 500 scientists and about $13 million to approve a label. So they do not take this lightly, and it is a very intense process to approve the label. And so what we're doing in this bill, as you'll see on lines 2 through 4, is we're just clarifying that the manufacturer cannot be held liable for failing to warn consumers of health risk above those required by the United States Environmental Protection Agency. So this bill does not lessen restrictions. It does not provide immunity, but it does provide for food safety, food security, low food prices, and farmers' livelihood. That's what the bill does, Mr. Chairman, and I know this committee's already heard this bill, so I just would greatly appreciate your support, and I'll be glad to take any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Senator Walker. Watson. Senator Watson. Representative Lewis Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Senator. On line 3, it says that, so as to clarify that a manufacturer cannot be held liable for failing. And that's what this bill does. It seeks to clarify that. Currently, a manufacturer is held liable. Is that correct?
So under current law, if they misrepresent, if they do something they're not supposed to do, then yes, they are held liable for failing to acknowledge that, and under current law.
And why do we want to change that to remove that liability?
Well, we're just changing the fact that we're limiting the failing to warn part, because they cannot put anything on the label that the EPA will not approve. So if they think that it does something, if there's a chance that it does something and the EPA doesn't approve it, then they cannot put it on the label. And we have situations across the country where that is the case. There is an issue where it probably, or it may, or they think, but there's no research and science that the EPA approves that it does that, so therefore they will not allow them to put it on the label.
Thank you.
Representative Carter.
Thank you. I think we're kind of around the same road here. I heard what you said, but what concerns me is if there is something in the product that is harmful. I understand that they can't label it, but something's in there that's harmful. Now we're saying that we're going to waive their liability. Is that what we're
No, ma'am.
doing here? Because you're saying they can't be sued.
Well, they cannot be sued for failing to warn of that if they don't know it. If they don't know it, they can't warn you for that, so you cannot sue for that.
May I ask for a little more clarity? Okay. So they can't be sued for not warning, but you saying, but they can still be sued if it's harmful.
Correct. If it is harmful and they hide it or don't tell anybody, then this is totally out the window. That's under current law today. That's illegal. If somebody is a bad actor, misrepresents, doesn't tell the truth, if the EPA finds out something in that 13-year time period that there's a problem with this product, they're not going to approve the label. So they're going to be in trouble, and you can do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself if that's the case. We're just saying under failure to warn that you cannot hold them liable for that because there's no research. The EPA has not approved that it's okay to do that or say that.
Chairman Leverett, a good attorney on our committee, I'm sure has got some very good comments.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for setting me up to fail like that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of plaintiffs. I certainly don't do a lot of products liability work. But my understanding of the bill is that it is attempting to relieve companies of a catch-22 they might find themselves in if the state were to begin regulating labeling of this product, or if there were state common law cases that might impact this label. Because my understanding is the EPA says this is what you got to put, and they don't want you to put other stuff. And
Correct.
So if we say, well, you got to put that, but you got to put this other thing, the EPA would not. That's a violation of federal law,
Correct.
which generally preempts what the state law is on these sort of things. So we're just trying to make it clear that if they don't put some additional warning, they're not responsible solely under a theory of failure to warn. They still could be responsible in damages to someone if the product is determined to be in some fashion harmful. So it's
That
a
is
very
correct.
surgical legislative approach, in my view, of just simply saying not putting extra stuff on your label is not going to be a breach of the failure or a failure of a duty to warn, but you could have liability under other ways. We're not touching that here.
Correct.
We're just making this one limited claim that's one of many that could be brought.
Correct.
So
Thank you.
that's my understanding of the bill,
Yes, sir.
and therefore I
That
support
is
the
mine.
bill.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman
Mr.
Leverett. Representative Donahue.
Thank you, Chairman. And excuse my voice, but I want to ask a couple questions with rumors everywhere. We know Roundup, there's been a lot of lawsuits. And with that, I think the chairman did a very good job of explaining what the surgical process was or is. Just to ask a few questions. Down there on 15, it says, of course, cost to farmers could more than double. We could always say something could, but tell me, besides Roundup, and I understand why it's used, what other chemicals would, and I know that doesn't have anything to do with the warning label, what other chemicals could you use that would work as good on hedgerows or whatever is Roundup?
There's not really many tools out there.
Okay.
When you say Roundup, it's a trait technology that farmers use to obviously lower the cost of production, and there is no replacement for this product.
Okay, and one of the things I know, there's what, glyphosate or something that
Glyphosate.
I've heard 42,000 times, and I'd probably heard twice before. With that, is it not true that it has a warning label that says you should wear a mask and different things, and it looks like your ears are still on, one hasn't fell off or anything?
That's correct.
By using this product, when you look at this, if you follow the instructions, you're pretty much safe, correct?
Correct.
It's like if you're smoking a cigarette, it may cause cancer. Depends on how many packs a day you smoke. And that's one thing I just wanted to make sure. If you do what you're supposed to do, basically you're pretty safe.
That is correct, and they do pull products off the marketplace. I've told the Senate that before I started growing vegetables, methyl bromide was a product that we used. It was an excellent nematicide. It controlled weeds. It was the best thing that we had. It kept prices low and production costs low for us as farmers. And the EPA pulled it off the marketplace. We then had to replace it with about 4 other chemicals to replace that one chemical to replace it with, and then it completely pulls it off the marketplace. But guess who's using it today? All of the countries around the world are still using methyl bromide, and guess who we're buying vegetables from today? Mexico and Argentina and all the countries around the world, and they're still using it. So I don't know if the ozone is going to be saved or not, but this is a similar situation. If we were to lose a product like this, that's what we would be up against.
Thank you.
Representative Reese.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for bringing this bill, especially considering that it helps within the area of farming. I understand that some pesticides are hard to come across, like the one that we use in the peanut industry. I think right now is just being manufactured in China. Is that correct?
A lot of them are, yes.
Right, okay. So my question is this, and I think the protections are balanced, but looking at the complete interest, trying to follow the example. So say they lied about the label to the EPA, but it was still approved, and we find out later on. Is there some type of mechanism that will allow like a farmer who has been like a victim of maybe off-target drift or something of that nature to then come back and seek recourse, or once they're behind that water protection, are they automatically there to stay? Is there a way to reach back if we discover?
Well, to go back to that, they broke the law because they lied. So they are immediately going to be held liable for what they did in that situation.
Okay, and so what code is there? Is somewhere you can refer me? Does that need to be here, or is that somewhere else?
That's current law today. I mean,
Okay.
if they lied about it, they misrepresented it, they broke the law. Yeah, well, that wasn't a failure to warn. They knew about it,
Right.
and they broke the law. So they will be held liable.
So our farmers will have some type of recourse in that
Correct.
situation. Exactly. That's what I need to know. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for bringing the bill. To the concerns that have been mentioned and to Mr. Reese's concerns, on line 40 through 42 and 43, 44, if the committee would look at that, basically saying that none of these provisions apply when a determination has been made by the EPA that a manufacturer knowingly held, concealed, misrepresented, destroyed material information regarding the risk to human health. Senator Watson, is it not true that that is current federal law?
That
and
is
we
correct.
are just reiterating that as in our state in this bill to reiterate and assure consumers that FIFRA, the fungicide, insecticide, the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, or Rodenticide Act covers any and all of those acts. That if consumers are misled and they're withholding information, that is the law in which those manufacturers are then prosecuted. Is that not true?
You are correct.
One other thing, Mr. Chairman, briefly, I'll cover this. We had talked about, what it means to not have some herbicides and some pesticides that we use in agriculture. Is it not true that according to the University of Georgia College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences lead weed scientist, that particularly with squash, that if we have no herbicides and we are hand weeding and we are tilling conventional till as we have in many years past, would that cost of production not be in the neighborhood of $4,000 per acre?
That is correct.
And Senator, is it not true that with squash at $4,000 an acre, that's just not going to translate to affordable food supply to our consumers?
It will not, and that number may actually be higher because the H2A AWA rate has actually probably gone up since that study was done.
Amen. Thank you, Senator.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Senator. Chairman. We're gonna move on. We got several people gonna want to speak, and if you've got another question, we got several more of you got other questions. Senator Watson's gonna stay here. Those of you who have signed up to speak, we're going to be very short, 2 minutes, no more. We've got some folks want to speak against it and for it. So if you would come to the podium mic and, again, keep your comments very short. Lori Artman, speaking on this SB 144.
Here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Tell the committee who you are.
Okay, my name is Lori Altman. I am a pharmacist, and I have a doctorate in clinical pharmacy. I have practiced for over 20
Can you
years.
speak into the mic, please?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
My name is Lori Altman. I'm a pharmacist. I have a doctorate in clinical pharmacy, and I practiced for over 25 years. I'm here today because I understand that you guys get 1 million pages put on your desks before this session, and there's no way for you to read all of it and to really dig into the ramifications of all of it. So I'm here to just discuss 144 and the implications and the ramifications it will have on the health of Georgians. This bill protects foreign companies like Bayer and Chin Chin, which produce pesticides in the United States. This bill gives them immunity if they misbrand, misrepresent, mislabel, and produce products that are toxic. They will hurt farmers as well as other Georgians. This bill allows a toxic chemical byproducts of the oil industry, which is glyphosate. It's one of the examples. Just think about what I just said. A toxic byproduct of the oil industry. That they're allowing that to be sprayed on our food, causing diseases which have been massively studied, and they've been published in NIH, PubMed, and MIT. Glyphosate destroys our healthy microbes and microbiome in our gut, which are where 70% of our immune system resides. Clear link to cancer, Parkinson's. This is a bill to give more immunity to these companies. If this bill is passed,
Thank you very much for bringing here. We've got multiple people to speak,
Okay.
and that's sort of.
Was that my 2
I think we
minutes?
understand your point here.
but I'm not. Give me like 1 more minute, okay?
Very short.
Okay. There are other ways, and you guys are farmers. I'm not a farmer, but these companies have been sued. There's over 60,000 lawsuits for the toxicities of these chemical pesticides. The EPA has very, very, very low standards. They haven't themselves done studies in over several decades. They rely on the industry to self-report. So.
Thank you. I understand. Appreciate your opinions on that. Appreciate you being here. Next, Andre Linker. Are you in the audience? Yes, sir. If you'd come to the podium, mic, speak, introduce yourself, and
Hello, committee. My name is Andrew Linker. I farm 2 hours north of here in rural White County. I'm a specialty crop grower, so I grow the tomatoes that'll knock your socks off and you go for flavor. And they're grown in healthy soils, and I do not use a lot of these pesticides on my farm. I choose not to. As a farmer, I also grow tomatoes. I also grow soy, and I grow sweet corn, the edible kind that you serve to your family and your kids on Independence Day. As a farmer, I believe SB 144 takes away my right to take action against the corporations who makes these products. And again, they have to buy the same seed from that chemical company in order for it to be sprayed on there. Let me clarify, I don't choose to apply it to my fields, and it can go onto my crops by one of two ways. It can be volatile in the air and float over. I'm in a valley. A lot of the air drifts over to my farm. And then it can also come over and drift as soon as it's sprayed above ground, and it can drift onto my farm. Those are the two ways, and it does happen. It's happened on millions of acres in the Midwest, and it has not happened here, but it could. And again, I choose to not spray it on my fields, and I believe that the consumers who are buying my products do not want it on their products, and I believe that I should have the right to take action if they are misleading the EPA with getting these pesticides approved. I just believe that this bill needs to be amended to make sure that I have the right to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. We'll just stay with a few more against here. Avita, see you here this morning. A lady of of many things. So you're going to talk about this bill 144 today.
Thank you,
Tell
Chairman,
us what bothers you about this.
And committee, thank you for recognizing me so kindly. As many of you know, I'm very passionate about cannabis, and one thing I'm more passionate about is being healthy and staying alive, as a lot of cannabis activists actually are passionate about. And I'm just worried. I understand the nitty-gritty and the catch-22s, and I don't want to squash your research about squash, but I don't want this to be discouraging labeling. I don't want them to hear this and say, I can't warn people. I think that should be very clear, because I think warnings are very important, because pesticides, though they help us grow our food, fiber, and ethanols in mass, they do seep into our food supply. I'm not going to repeat all the points of glyphosate and DDT we already banned and all that stuff, but I think it's kind of like holding up a loaded gun pointed at your liver and your brain without warning. And it's a little different because it's not an instant death, but it's, everything that she said, the cancers, ironically parasite infestations, DNA mutations. I'm also, the second main point, besides worrying that this discourages more warning labeling, is the workers. I think that the workers actually probably have the most exposure, and living in a community setting, I rarely see the landscapers applying the Roundup with protection, and maybe it's a language barrier. So I think that should be considered, is that does the employer need to be accountable for teaching how to use these? So those are my two main points and my two concerns to hopefully this body can consider, because there's been a lot of consideration with regulating cannabis, and there's not exactly consistency here. There's a little bit of hypocrisy, and I beg you actually to recognize that.
Thank you. I appreciate those comments. I welcome you to visit to a real farm someday, and I can really show you all the worker protection and all the other things that we have to do. So anyway, thank you for those comments. Next on our agenda, Amari. Is it another person here that wants to speak? Is it another person who wants to speak against this? Jody? Yeah. Thank you. Come to the mic. We've got 2 minutes.
Absolutely.
Just please speak to the bill too. Thank you. I know you got a lot other concerns maybe, but this is the bill before us.
Thank you so much, and good morning, committee. My name is Jodeci Gonzalez, and I'm a beekeeper and honey producer, and someone who is deeply invested in public health, consumer protection, and the integrity of our agricultural and environmental policies. I'm here to speak today on SB 144 because public safety and transparency should always come first. This bill limits the ability to hold pesticide manufacturers accountable if they fail to warn people about potential risks. We've heard already some examples of glyphosate, PFAS, and leaded gasoline, which are just a few examples. And if a pesticide is later found to be harmful and manufacturers don't disclose these known risks, they should be held liable or responsible. Georgia's residents, farmers, and workers do deserve clear, honest information about the products that they are being exposed to. Eliminating the duty to warn puts the public at risk and makes it a little bit harder to demand accountability when transparency fails. And I do urge the committee to reconsider this bill. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Switch gears just a little bit. Mary Kay Woodworth, if you would come. Thank you for being here. Georgia Urban Ag Council, I think you can introduce yourself and tell us your thoughts on this bill.
Thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to be here to speak to the committee this morning. Excuse the pollen is with us. I am Mary Kay Woodworth. I'm the Executive Director of the Georgia Urban Ag Council, and we're a professional trade association for Georgia's landscape, turfgrass, and horticulture industry. We have provided a letter of support of SB 144, which you will find on your desk. Our association represents landscape service providers, turfgrass and ornamental farm operations, outdoor design and construction firms, pest control companies, parks and recreation, golf courses, and athletic facilities. Companies who are members of our association not only grow trees, turfgrass, ornamental plants, shrubs, but also install and maintain these agricultural products, which includes use of pesticide products. Our members utilize these EPA-approved products year-round for a range of applications, including insecticides for harmful plant weeds, plant insects, weed management in turfgrass and flower beds, fungicides that impede plant production in ornamental and flowering trees and shrubs, just to name a few. Homeowners and property owners also utilize these products as well in management of their lawns and landscapes. Last week, you may have seen one of our member companies outside on the Capitol grounds installing shrubbery and then spraying pre-emergent on those beds where they installed the plants. After Good Friday, you'll see seasonal color being installed all around the Capitol and all around the state once we get past the last freeze warning. Then they will also be applying herbicides and pesticides, or pesticides and fungicides for weed and disease control. The label is the law is a commonly used phrase in our industry to stress the critical nature of proper product use. As an industry that supports the safe use of pesticides, we continually stress the importance of following all label directions. As a matter of fact, last Friday we were in Savannah where we had a group of 70 landscape professionals who either had their pesticide license, were getting recertification credits, or trying to attain their license. And we asked them this question. They were being taught by UGA cooperative extension agents and specialists. We asked them, how do you know the proper method of choosing and applying pesticides? And their answer, every one, was the label is the law. Senate Bill 144 would simply help keep registered pesticide products on the shelf and available for use. We fully support the science-based process and role of the EPA and FIFRA. I'm glad you said it's Representative Meeks, because I always get it wrong, the wrong order. The process of regulating pesticide regulations, including labeling. This protects the integrity of the registration process, and this bill would not change that standard. We're asking for your support of SB 144, which will help clarify pesticide labeling for products utilized by a wide variety of end users. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Will Bentley, Georgia Agribusiness Council, if you come and make your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Will Bentley with the Georgia Agribusiness Council, and we represent every sector of the ag industry, from farmers to ag commodity groups, to major manufacturers. There's no more important bill to our industry and our organization this year than SB 144, so we appreciate Chairman Meeks and Senator Watson bringing this bill before us. I just want to reiterate one thing. Drift and direct harm that has been mentioned would still be illegal. It would still be, you could still sue manufacturers, you could still sue anyone for things that are illegal. This bill does not change that at all. This does not change anything that would already be illegal. It points back to FIFRA and the laws of the land. That's what the bill does. It doesn't take away any liability for any of these manufacturers of this product. What it's looking at is simply one thing, ensuring that farmers have the tools in the toolbox that they need to produce the food and fiber for the world. So I just want to reiterate that when they talk about this would be blanket liability, that's simply not true. This is specifically saying that a company cannot warn you for something that a product does not do. The EPA will not allow them to put a warning on a label for something that their product has never been found to do, and science has backed that up thousands of times. The EPA, as Senator Watson mentioned, has a rigorous process to go through. It takes hundreds of millions of dollars to get a product listed and labeled. It takes 10 to 15 years for that product to get listed, and these are the safest, most effective products that we can possibly have in agriculture. So I just wanted to reiterate that without plant protection, Georgia farmers could not farm, and our industry would struggle across the entire state and probably wouldn't exist in much of rural Georgia. So we ask that you favorably support this. You will have a letter on your desk tomorrow that has the support of all the ag organizations across the state, so we ask that you favorably support it. We know you passed through this unanimously already, so thank you all for your support previously.
Thank you. And we have one more speaker, Adam Bellflower, Georgia Farm Bureau, if you come and make your comments, and then we'll, the committee, we can get back to a few questions or make some motions.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. Appreciate y'all having us this morning. My name's Adam Bellflower. Work with Georgia Farm Bureau. We represent producers all across the state of Georgia, in every county, across every commodity. The focus of our organization is the farmer. And one of our priorities and one of the things that we preach most to our farmers is safety and human health. And not only the health of the farmer, but also the health of the consumer. And that is what EPA's role is in this process, is to ensure human health for the end user and for the producer. If you look at a pesticide label, there are procedures down to how high the boom of a tractor has to be above the canopy of a crop when they spray these chemicals. Farmers are given very direct instructions on how to use these products safely. And we teach that, we preach that to our people as well. If you come to a Farm Bureau convention down in Jekyll in December, one of the things that we work in our convention every year are pesticide applicator credits. We have extension come in and teach to our farmers how to utilize these products safely, how to be in compliance with all rules and regulations at the federal and state level. We appreciate Senator Watson and Representative Meeks bringing this legislation. We believe it again just helps reinforce the safety of these products, and it allows EPA to do their job in protecting human health for these products. So thank you all.
Thank you. We've got a few more members, got some questions. Representative Cannon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to ask Senator to walk us, the committee, through why these types of crop protection products are so important to the types of operations we have, such as down in South Georgia. You got a letter, the committee has a letter from Bart Davis, and his type of operation is, I suspect, vastly different than who we heard from earlier, a specialty crop operation, where Bart's probably running 4,000 acres. R-Series tractors cost $500,000. Cotton pickers, it cost $1 million. So is it not true that these protection products are a must-use for the types of operations that you run, that our families run in Colquitt County?
Yes, sir. It is. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not real sure what cotton and corn and soybean growers would do, because right now their operations are focused around crop protection tools that we're talking about, and it would extremely increase the cost of production for their operations that are already losing money as we see it today with our current technology and our current trait technology that we have out there. If anything, we need more of the crop protection tools to help make us more efficient and more sustainable, and it would definitely seriously impact the row crop industry.
Representative Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. From the legal perspective, I'm with you. I understand completely. But I'm getting tons, I'm sure we all are getting tons and tons of vote no emails. So can you give me some messaging pointers to take back to the consumers who are gravely concerned about this bill?
Yes, ma'am. Well, I brought a visual aid here, and this book right here, if you want to take it home and read it, it will tell you how safe glyphosate is. And I have two of these. If you want the second one, I'd be glad to provide them with you. I'm tired of toting it around. The original study that has created a lot of this was done in 2017, and that same study also said that red meat, hot beverages, and night shift work were also could be possibly maybe carcinogenic. So maybe we need to quit eating red meat, maybe we need to quit drinking coffee, maybe we need to quit working at night, because that same study, that one study that probably May suggested had that's what created the failure to warn situation that we're in today, and that's what we're trying to fix.
Representative Carter.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Watson. I think your last statement may be leading to what I'm trying to understand. So I've listened, and I read. Mm-hmm. So clearly there is something happening that's not on this piece of paper. Because I'm not reading where there's a limitation on what can be used. So I guess either help me with the backstory, how we got here, and because I just don't see this in this legislation, and this is my concern is that we could possibly not be protecting consumers, but I'm hearing you saying that you need this in order to do your business. So I'm missing something in the translation.
Okay, so real quick, this was created by one study, an IARC study. Here's some talking points on that study that triggered. It said that glyphosate was just known to cause cancer. There's been this one study that also says red meat, hot beverages, and night shift work, among many other silly things, could be bad for your health. And in California, the EPA would not allow the manufacturer to put that on the label because they only had this one little study from this one group. Meanwhile, they had binders and binders of research that said that it was safe. So they're not allowed to do it, so the company was sued for failure to warn based on one piece of paper. And so that's what has created this dilemma. From an operational standpoint, again, if we do not have crop protection tools, we're not going to stay in business, and we're not going to be able to produce food for Georgians and for Americans. And so we can buy them from Mexico, and guess what Mexico is going to use? They're going to use all of the products that American farmers cannot use. So we can either produce it here and be able to go after U.S. manufacturers of these crop protection tools, or we can allow the products to come in from China or from other countries, and then you can't go after the Chinese. You can't go after foreign manufacturers, but you can go after a U.S. manufacturer. So I would prefer, as a farmer, as a consumer, I would rather make sure that our U.S. manufacturers stay in business so that we can purchase products from them versus a Chinese manufacturer that I cannot go after as a consumer or a farmer. So that's why this is important from an operational standpoint.
Okay.
Chairman,
I think
okay,
we need to move on to the. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm a 1 + 1 = 2 kind of person.
Yeah.
I do numbers. So I'm hearing what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So this language that I'm reading does not say to me that you cannot use the products that you need to do your business. So all the other stuff, I hear that. I'm just trying to stick with the facts of what's in front of me with this document.
So if we don't pass this, we lose the crop protection tools. They disappear from the U.S. marketplace as an American manufacturer exists today because of failure to warn. The only way for them to stop the lawsuits because of failure to warn is to remove the product from the shelf, which they have already done on the retail level. The next phase would be to remove it from ag production, commercial production, which takes it away from us as farmers. And then the only place we can purchase that product is the Chinese.
Okay, thank you. Number 22, Ms. Ford.
Thank you, Chairman Watson, for bringing this. And I'm grateful for American farmers. And I was just looking up the average age life expectancy in 1930 was 58 years old. And now our life expectancy is 77 and a half years old. So we're doing something right. There's lots of confusion on this bill. And I understand that other states are trying to pass the same legislation, right?
Yes.
To keep manufacturers in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, we've never been hungry in this country in the past while. We've had plenty to eat because of modern agriculture. Would we be able to effectively feed the masses without these products?
No.
No.
We would not.
Okay, we've got a few more questions, but I think we've debated this thing enough. I think everybody, has anybody got anything they've just got to ask Chairman Watson? I've not heard from Representative Willis, so if you could ask questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning.
Good morning.
Senator Watson, I have two questions. One, I'm a recent cancer survivor, inexplicable in terms of cost, one of many. And so oftentimes as a consumer, things happen to us and they're not able to point to exactly what the root cause is. Not your responsibility, I understand that. But from a consumer perspective, I have concern with this bill twofold. One, and my mother retired from the EPA, so I'm kind of familiar with the timeline that it takes to make adjustments to labeling. So if a farmer or a company knows that their product is causing some issue, and they do in fact report that to the EPA, there's a timeline of what it would take to actually change labeling to better protect consumers. So let's say that timeline is 6 months to a year. I believe I'm correct on that. There's a gap between making an adjustment when something is found out and actually report it. So let's assume good intent from the farmer. There's a gap between when that adjustment would be made, and in that gap, consumers at risk. That's the way I'm seeing it. And that's problematic for me. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit around that in terms of what happens when you say, hey, this product, something's going on here. Let's report it. Let's send it to the EPA. We report it to the EPA. We got another 6, 7, 8 months before an adjustment is made. What happens in that gap?
So it is my understanding, obviously the EPA does approve the labels, and once they approve one, they don't just forget about it. They're constantly going back to reevaluate those labels. It is my understanding that you would still have a path to provide for any thing that you needed from a liability standpoint during that time period. They would immediately have to pull the product from the shelf. There would be a massive recall, and then at that point they would still become liable for any product left out there. But that's just my understanding of it. I'm not a judge or a lawyer or a jury, so that would just be my interpretation of it.
Okay, thank you.
Representative County.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Watson, is it not true that you and I both feed farm products that are used on crop protection products to our children, and that our parents ate these same farm and crop peanuts and vegetables and things that crop protection products are used for? That our grandparents ate them, that our parents ate them, that our children eat these things. Is that not true?
That is true. Thank you.
Okay, Chairman Tyler Paul Smith.
Mr. Chairman, just at the appropriate time, I'd like to move do pass.
This is an appropriate time.
So moved then, Mr.
Got
Chairman.
got a motion, do pass. Do I hear a second? I heard a second. Any other comments or questions at this time? Representative Lewis Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we can just look at line 39 really quickly in the bill.
Could you speak up, please?
If we can look at line 39 in the bill, it says provision of state law concerning the duty. At the end of the sentence, it says, or any other common law duty. Can you explain that to me, please? Where it says, or any other common law duty? To warn. What does that mean?
So the state of Georgia still has the ability to do whatever they feel they need to do on failure to warn. The State Department of Agriculture still has all their rule making authority when it comes to plant protection and pest products. So they would have to speak more to that, but they're in the same boat of this. They would still be able to enforce whatever they wanted to here within the state of Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Okay, have a motion and second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, a call for vote. All in favor of SB 144, SB 144C, SFA. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? One opposed. So, am I? Oh, okay. So noted. So noted. Motion passes. Thank you, Senator Watson. Thank you for your patience here this morning. Good discussion. Thank you, committee, for your engagement and on the rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it, committee.
Meeting adjourned.